Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minions with me tonight are Adam.
Hello.
Useless.
Hello, how goes it?
JenTMaxi.
Hello.
And, of course, I'm the keeper for the night, Sanguine. How are all of you doing tonight?
Alive and kicking.
Always better than the alternative. What about the other two?
I'm doing well. How about you, Adam?
Shit.
Put him on a spot.
Man, I don't know. It's just so much different now that we're live. I feel like I have a frog in my throat. Good Lord Almighty.
Everyone just keep pressuring him. Make him answer. Stress.
It was a weird, it was just kind of weird toss-up. Like, and how about you, Adam? Oh, shit. Wait, what was the question?
How are you doing today?
Oh, well, I'm doing pretty good, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing decent. I just finished eating dinner shortly before stream, so for once I'm not going to be cooking mid-stream.
Ooh. What'd you eat?
I had rosemary garlic chicken skewers with a smoked mozzarella tortellini and microgreen salad.
Okay.
It's better than my dinner.
And it was really tasty because I used some balsamic vinegar and I was able to find black garlic molasses. So I mixed some of that into the tortellini as well. Really damn tasty.
Nice.
How long did it take you to prep that and well, altogether cook it?
The cooking was 3 minutes for the tortellini. It was not very long for the chicken skewers either. It was probably around like maybe 7 to 10 minutes for the chicken skewers.
Well, I mean, like the entire like preparation and.
I cheated with the tortellini and just got them at a local grocer. They were fresh but not homemade tortellini, so that was literally just get a pot of boiling water on and toss them in to cook. The chicken skewers were from my local butcher shop. They have a series of different flavored skewers, so I've been trying out all the different flavors, seeing which ones I like, which ones I'm going, the seasoning's a bit off, so I can figure out which ones are really good quick and dirty meals, which ones are kind of like, if I have some time to monkey around with them, I can balance out the flavors just right, but otherwise not really the best. So far, I haven't really ended up with many in that category, other than tonight's were a little bit saltier than normal.
I bought a couple boxes of rice ramoni. I was like, no, never. Because even though they're $1, I was like, no. They were horrible. In my opinion, they were.
Yeah. On that same video about the canned spaghetti, I did joke with the fellow who was doing the review on how Canada unintentionally starts World War III with Italy. We'll unintentionally send them a care package of Kraft mac and cheese.
Nice.
Yeah,
but I've, like I said, just been experimenting with the butcher shop, seeing what their seasonings are and how good they are. Some of them are really damn good. Some of them are just good. None of them have been terrible thus far.
Yo, that's cool because when you go and entertain some guests, you know exactly what you're looking for in terms of cuts of meat at the local butcher. So you can cut through all the bullshit and just go straight. You know what? I think these guys are gonna like this one. And go ahead and select that. That's pretty cool. Getting a nice repertoire.
I know that if I was going to be entertaining someone and I wanted to serve up a really delicious cut of beef that not many people have had, I'd just get the Terrace Major that they have there. Because Useless might know what the teres major is.
What is a teres major?
Teres major is one of the muscles in the shoulder blade.
Fucking Major Terry. Get out of here with the...
So, yeah, the teres major is one of the muscles from the shoulder. And it's just this fairly tender, ridiculously, and I mean almost insanely beefy taste, while still being really tender. And just dry brine that. It doesn't have much fat, so you need to make sure that you add a little bit of fat in the cooking process and you don't cook it too long or else it gets dried as all hell. But dry brine that, toss it in a screaming hot cast iron skillet with a bit of tallow, sear on all the sides, bring it up to temp in the middle, and oh god, it's good eating.
Kind of out of my price range,
Oh, teres major is not expensive. It's about the same as a... It's a little bit less than like a New York strip.
I don't eat a lot of steaks either. No, it sounds good though. But yeah, with the nice, good fat content and marble throughout is always the best kind.
Like I said, this one is not really marbled. It's fairly lean.
Oh yeah.
But it's just really tender, and if you treat it right, oh god, it's amazing.
I always wanted to try that.
Ellen says one day Sanguine is going to freak us all out and say he had Taco Bell for dinner.
I don't picture that.
Don't say that because when that happens, that's like the opening of the seventh seal. Okay? Just relax here. Okay. But going back to the cuts of meat. So, do you think that if it? Well, I mean, not do you think? Is it the higher fat content absorbs all the flavoring better, or is it the lower fat content absorb the flavor better?
So it's less... Some bit of a complicated answer because you have some cuts some cuts that are naturally rather lean, and some of those are really flavorful, some of them less flavorful. You have other cuts that have a lot of fat normally, some of them more, some of them less. So it depends on the specific cut that you're looking at, the amount of fat content that you would want as your base. Like if you're talking a New York strip or ribeye, you want it really nicely marbled, which means not large globs of fat in the meat. You want the fat kind of almost tiger striping the meat throughout.
It's funny you say tiger striping. I was gonna say, oh yeah, like Damascus. That
would be another good way of looking at it. Like you want a Woods steel look to it, where it's that.
Yeah. Well, hey, I established this before we even went live. My brain's kind of all over the place right now. So yes, continue, sir. I'm still writing notes.
You want beautifully marbled for the main steak cuts that you would get. So T-bones, ribeyes, New York strips, all those standard cuts. But then you have other cuts that are far more lean, but have an insane amount of flavor as well. And typically the thing that is the trade-off is the toughness of the meat versus how beefy the meat is.
Well, I was going to say, because Elephant in chat, he likes your meat fat because it tastes good, because fat's where a lot of flavors at. And humans could crave the taste of fat and sugars, so just a little...
Fat's not necessarily where all the flavor's at, but in a cut of meat that is supposed to have fat, yes, you want it to have lovely marbling. But then there's other cuts, like I was saying, the teres major has very little fat content. but it is one of the most intensely beefy cuts.
You know, it's
And
kind of like oxtails and, you know, like,
But which one absorbs the flavoring better? Like which one you don't have to like add a ton of flavoring to it so that it catches it. You know, like I don't. Well, yeah, that's
So you're asking which one will take a marinade easier?
yeah.
So for which one would take a marinade easier, it's more of an issue of how thick the cut of meat is than what cut of meat it is. But typically, if you want it to really take a marinade, you want a cut of meat that has very obvious grain to it. So a
Like a texture.
cut that has very obvious grain would be like a flank steak or a skirt steak, because you can see what direction the muscle fibers are running.
Yeah. Well, skirt steak's pretty thin cut.
Yep. And if the thinner cut of meat, the quicker it'll take a marinade. Also, the more obvious that grain is in the meat, the more readily it'll take the marinade, because it's able to get into the grain and kind of just become delicious and absorbed in. Also, those cuts of meat are typically the ones that you want marinated more, because the marinade does kind of start to break down the connective tissue, which allows that meat to be more tender as well as more flavorful.
So have you ever made a rouladen then?
I have not done a roulade yet. I've done.
Wait, what was that?
A rouladen. It's a style of
rouladen?
yeah. It's a thin sliced meat that you usually fill with the stuffing and you
Yep.
roll it, and then you and my mom bakes hers, but usually she has a sauce that she puts on it too, and it goes
What do you-
with
what do you
pasta
stuff it?
or.
What are you stuffing?
Let me pull up a picture of a roulade.
So hers is a different recipe. So
Oh,
she
is it safe for work, sir? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh,
it'll
yeah.
be safe for work.
There's one thing in there that you're not gonna like, Adam, but you don't need it. So for you, you could probably make it without. But my mom does use onions with hers.
that's his favorite, though.
I know, right? But my mom also uses she'll usually cut up a decent ham, like I'm sorry, you guys are going to be offended, but Canadian bacon. And then she uses onions. She uses I don't know why, but she uses a pickle. I don't know if it's just the vinegariness of it, but
Yeah,
she
it's
uses,
the acid.
she uses a pickle with it. There's usually a mustard mixture that she uses with it.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes I think that's pretty much it.
Oops.
Wait,
I
so it's like,
wrong, but that still shows it.
So it's like a meat and vinegar sauce type mixture.
Yeah,
So
that looks about right. Yeah.
no like tomatoes or peppers or
This is a better look.
lettuce or.
Oh,
So-
no lettuce. You can use peppers. Like I was
What
thinking
about relish?
This is an example of a roulade.
Mhm.
This one is a flank steak roulade from the looks of it.
You can
So-
cheat with a relish. You can cheat with the relish, but my mom
Cheat?
preferred. Yeah. There's a lot of recipes where it's like, well, if you don't have a jar of pickles, you can use relish. It's got
Yep.
pickles in it.
So-
you know, there's somebody at a luncheon and they're eating this thing and they're like,
You'd be surprised.
they
A
used
dill pickle relish is not too different from a dill pickle.
But yeah,
Depends on the relish.
if you look
Yeah.
at the StreamYard's window, Adam, I have
I'm
a picture
watching.
of a roulade pulled up, and this is like I said, flank steak roulade. This one has a pesto mixture in
Is it
the
Yep.
spiral.
Yep.
Yeah, you can make a roulade with a bunch of different types of
Oh yeah.
add-ins. So you can have
No, the pesto thing was listening to comedians earlier the day, and pesto was a tag. But no, go ahead.
but
The
yeah, you
green
can.
stuff.
Yep, the green stuff is pesto in this one.
Mhm.
You can do a bunch of different sorts. So there's the pickled one that Jen was talking about. You can do just like a kind of mushroom paste almost, where you cook down some mushrooms, you add in a bit of mustard or something along those lines. You slather that on the meat, then you roll it up, tie it, sear it on all sides.
Hold on, what's the coating around it? Is that?
That's just the meat has been seared on all sides.
Oh, okay. Because it looked like a seaweed. Because I was, it
That's
looks,
basically how my mom will do it. Like she'll cook them in a pan first, and then she'll bake them usually with the sauce.
Yep.
And then she'll usually and because she usually did this meal for the kids, so she used pasta. I mean, that's the bulking agent when you have kids, apparently, pasta. So, but it went well. Well, it went well with the sauce, and then you just cut up the meat and mixed it in with the pasta. And it was great. But traditionally, it's not served with that.
No, it looks delicious either way.
Yeah, the way that you do it is you lay out your bit of meat that you're going to be using. So you can use just one flank steak in this case. You can use several flank steaks. There's several other cuts of meat that you could use as well. You kind of pound it out a little bit flatter so that you get more surface area. Then while it's all laid out in a damn near sheet in front of you, you would smear on your pesto at this point, if you're doing the one that's in the picture, and then you would roll it up from one end towards the other. Once it's rolled up, you get some butcher twine, tie it off so that it's held in that circle, and then you just sear off all the sides so you get that nice Maillard crust on every surface. And for those playing at home, drink.
Yeah.
My mom did individual ones, but she used toothpicks to hold them together. But same thing. Yep.
Wait, you bake it?
So what you do first is you sear it off, and then you would bake it in order to make sure that it gets the right temperature throughout.
Well, like even cooking and well, I mean the twine's gonna keep its shape, but to bake it all around, or at least cook it all the way around.
Yeah, you have to turn it.
Yeah, you
turn
it throughout the cooking.
Because I was gonna say, like, it doesn't look like it has like a flat
Like
spot.
you're not doing the whole thing in the baking. Like you're doing some of this in a pan searing. So like you sear it first, and then usually you bake it.
So when you're searing it, you'll just be turning it as you sear.
And there's usually kind of a flat side too, Adam.
There is either a flat side, like in this one, the side that is facing the rest of the roulade. You see it's kind of squared off on that side a little bit. Or if you want it to be less squared off, then what you do is you get a roasting rack.
Yeah.
And if your roasting rack has a rounded bottom to it, then you're able to set the meat on and it will be far more circular throughout.
I did trick the meatballs. I used a mini muffin tin to keep them round.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
A mini muffin round?
Yeah, a mini muffin tin. From
meatballs. Muffin tin. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you'd then pull it out of the oven once it's up to temp throughout. You'd slice it into these rounds, which is where roulade comes from. Roulade and round share root. And you'd serve them up on the plate. If you have an additional sauce, you'd spoon that over and then pair it up with whatever side dish you want.
Yeah, Sanguine, next time we hang out, you gotta make one.
It's nice hearty food. Like it's very nice winter food, especially like with what you pair it with. Like I said, my mom went the low key route with the pasta, but she could have easily done Nooklin with it as well because she used to do a lot of goulash. So this was an easy one to switch out if she had leftover goulash, which was impossible with my brother.
And you can do roulades with pretty much any meat that you want. And you can also do it with seafood. So one really common preparation of smoked salmon, for instance, is a smoked salmon pinwheel. And a smoked salmon pinwheel is just a roulade by another name.
But does it smell as sweet? No, wait, no. But yeah, no, yeah, I'm down. I mean, as long as, like I said, there's no onion. You know.
I'm sure you make a barbecue version of it, you know?
Yeah, like I said, this is one of those ones where, like, it's one of those things you don't have to add it. It's just my mom did, just because
Onions,
kids and
delicious.
vegetables. And I agree. I like onions. You know.
He just uses jammy onions, you know?
Yeah.
Jammy onions are amazing. You just need to know how to cook them right so that you really concentrate down the sugars, caramelize them beautifully, and cook off the more sulfurous notes.
Yeah.
And you just end up with this really sweet, amazing, thick, caramelized onion. And you can do that in the center of your roulade. You can do damn near anything. Like I said, you can do herbaceous ones. You can do more umami, mushroomy-based ones.
You know what?
Just eat once.
Hey, no, you just gave me gave me the idea that, yeah, dude, let's hang out. You make one of these things, but hey, cut it in half first. I want to see what you put inside.
Well, you're supposed to cut it in rounds before you eat it anyway. Like the piece when you're going to eat it is usually
I want to eat it like that, where it's like a little sliver of it.
Yeah, it looks like a little sushi roll. Yeah, that's actually how you're supposed to kind of eat it. So
Yeah. So the way that you'd plate it up is you'd cut it into those rounds, and then you would snip the twine off of them. The image does not have the twine snipped yet, so you can still see that at the bottom of the two rounds. But you would remove the twine, you'd plate it up, and then, like I said, if you have an additional sauce, like a beef gravy, or depending on what sort of filling you have, you might have a red sauce or a wine reduction. You'd spoon that over the roulade and then plate up with your side dish. They're absolutely delicious. I have not done a roulade as of yet, though.
No. I just had to ask because you were talking about cuts of thin beef, and that's one of those things my mom always frustrates with, because sometimes stores will carry it and sometimes they won't, just because it is a specific style of cooking. You know, not everybody does that. That's not to say that other cultures don't have stuffed meats. They do. And for some reason, our grocery store chains is stuffed meat. They really do. I had this rant yesterday about that too, because of that cookbook lady. And I was like, oh yeah. And I was just like, I don't think you understand what white people liking your food means. It means more products in North America.
And also, I think that one of the reasons why you end up with flank steak, and really flank steak you can find fairly routinely in North America, but its skirt steak tends to be a son of a bitch to find, depending on where you live, is it is an extremely popular cut for making fajitas.
Yeah, I find it pretty easy where I'm at, so...
That makes sense. That makes sense, actually.
If you live in certain areas, it is really easy to find. In other areas, you can find it on every Mexican restaurant's menu, but you can't find it in the grocery store. And I think that's a supply issue, where in some areas they get enough of it in that they're selling it everywhere. In other areas, all the Mexican places buy out the stock of skirt steak before it arrives.
Yeah.
Dude, out by us, we got two different kinds where they cut it up differently.
Yep.
But you have to go to the butcher to get that done. But if you go and just get, there's the not chained grocery stores, and they have it, and you can get it at a pretty decent price. But it's a random random selection, but it's still skirt steak.
Yeah.
It's good to grill.
And skirt steak is one of those cuts that is insanely beefy flavor,
Yeah.
but it's not the most tender cut in the world.
No.
You have to know how to use it in order to make it tender.
Broken a few teeth on one.
Yeah.
And it's the main trick is just like with most cuts of beef, you want to make sure that the last cut is across the grain, not with the grain, across the grain. You want to shorten up those fibers as much as you can. And
My dad would applaud you. He's had this problem for years.
Yep. And like I said, when it comes to beef, you have certain cuts that are insanely beefy flavors, like eye round. It's hard to beat the beefiness of eye round, but eye round is known to be an absolute goddamn tooth breaker if you don't cook it right and if you don't serve it up right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it will tense up and just be fucking impossible. But then you have, on the other end of the spectrum, filet mignon. Filet mignon is ridiculously tender. It does not have that strong of a beef flavor. So when you're talking steaks, you have, of course, the filet mignon. That's always counted among them. Really tender, not much beef flavor. The New York strip, not as tender as the filet, more beef flavor than the filet. You have the ribeye, not as tender filet, more flavorful than filet. Pretty much the ultimate in tender and flavor. Both of them just getting cranked up ridiculously. Is also the hardest steak to find because there is only one of them in any single cow. Anyone happen to know what type of steak it is?
Nope.
Is it that Japanese cube steak or whatever it is?
You're thinking Wagyu, and Wagyu is a specific style of raising cows that produces just this ridiculously marbled meat and also really tender meat with the fat will melt at room temperature. It will melt as you touch the meat. It starts melting. It's insane. But Wagyu is about the type of cow that you have and how you raise the cow. It isn't the actual cut of meat. The cut that I'm referring to is the hanger steak. And there's only one hanger steak in every cow. And the hanger steak hangs down between the lungs.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yep. So it is the only
Right next to
one-
organs, and it's being worked.
Yep. It gets just enough work to get that beef flavor while not being worked to the point that it becomes tough.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really the thing. When you're talking about the tender cuts of meat, they tend to be down towards the belly. Because the cow's belly doesn't really do that much. And then when you're talking the really intensely flavorful cuts that tend to be tougher, you're talking up in the arms and legs and shoulders and the hips of the cow. And the ass of the cow. Rump roast.
I have to confess to something, Sanguine. It's been so long since I'd thought about cow anatomy that I forgot they had more than one stomach.
Damn.
It'd been so long. It was like, oh wait, they do. Oh yeah, they do.
Yep.
Shit. Fuck.
And another really good example of a cut of meat that is insanely beefy, but if you even slightly cook it wrong, it is absolute goddamn shoe leather. Heart.
Mm.
If you know how to cook heart, oh god, it's amazing. If you don't know how to cook heart, It is just easier getting your granddad's work boots and trying to eat them for dinner. Because the heart will just seize up and become fucking impossible to cut, goddamn impossible to chew.
Never had heart. You know.
Oh, it's delicious. You just need to cook it right, which really means you slice it incredibly thin, you kiss it on a grill, and it's done. That's all. Probably the best heart that I had was when I was in Japan.
Yeah. The only organ meat I've had is liver and pate. And I was like, they're too strong. It's too strong.
So,
Jesus, dude, you had heart? What the
yeah, I've
fuck?
had heart. I've had several different types of heart.
So, what about the Afghanis? Wow, what's going on over there? Oh,
That is
shit.
an absolute goddamn shit show.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, they're just cutting off heads. They're not sautéing hearts.
Yeah,
I know. I'm just, hey, you know, I'm just that's
it's
so you kind of really thin.
yeah. You cut the heart really thin. You marinate it for a little bit, and then, like I said, you just kiss it on the grill, and it's done. You don't
Do you
do
have
anything
to
past
kiss
that.
it? Can you just like?
Kissing just means you set it on the grill, you get that tss, you flip it, tss, done.
Makes sense if you slice it thin enough, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yep. And you need it to be sliced so that its fibers are nice and short. And then, like I said, you just give it that kiss so it gets those Maillard reactions on each side of the slice. And then you don't want it to be cooked all the way through. You don't want it like a well-done heart. Well-done heart is completely inedible. You want it to be at the absolute most. You want it to be medium rare. And like I said, it is literally just throw it down for like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, time to flip. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, into my mouth. Done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. Like I've seen some of the hot pot cuts, so like I'm thinking like almost prosciutto level thin.
It doesn't have to be quite that thin. It can be
Yeah.
as thick as like
Yeah.
a thick cut bacon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
isn't that something where it's like instead of like a fondue, it's like hot oil, and then
Yeah.
you just stick the meat in there, and you're like, man,
Hot pot-
cook it.
Hot pot is absolutely delicious, as is there's a number of different types of it where it's not an oil, but it's just broth. So
Yeah.
there's sukiyaki is the Japanese name for it. You have shabu shabu, which is used in certain parts of Japan, as well as I think it's Korea uses shabu shabu
Yeah. Yeah.
as the name for it. Then, depending on which section of China you're in, it will just tend to be the English version is hot pot for the name, but there's a couple different other names for it throughout China.
I think Korea has it too.
Yep. And with those, the absolute best way of doing those is you cook all your meat, you cook all your veg. So you throw in your veg really early on into the dinner. Then you throw your meat in, and you pull your meat out as it finishes cooking. And then at the end of the dinner, when you've had that pot of broth boiling away the entire time, and you just get to the end, and you have maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches of broth in the bottom of it. You get a raw egg, and you get a bowl of rice. When you have the rice there, you throw the rice and you mix the ever-living fuck out of the rice in that broth so that the rice is entirely broken up into the broth, mixed throughout, and every grain is just absolutely coated with that thick, reduced broth. Crack your egg in, beat the fuck out of the egg and rice mixture, and you just end up with this insanely unctuous, indulgent porridge at the bottom of the bowl.
That's what you want, though.
It is absolutely amazing. And just serve that up at the end of Night of Shabu Shabu or Sukiyaki. Oh, God, yes.
It's like when you go get like a pho, you know, you want the meat to be really thin, too.
Yep.
Or pho, if you want to say it right.
Yeah, for the hot pot shabu shabu sukiyaki, It is a thin cut of meat. That way, it's just you throw it in, it cooks through in seconds.
Yeah.
Pull it out, pop it into your mouth. It's delicious, and just keep on adding more cuts of meat in, different types of meat, different vegetables and mushrooms, so that you really just build the flavor of that broth. Because the more flavorful the broth gets, the more flavorful everything you put in gets. And it is amazing. It's one of the things that I really miss from where I used to live in Northern Virginia. Because across the street from me, I had a shabu shabu place. I had a Korean barbecue place. Down the road, I had an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue place. The shabu shabu was an all-you-can-eat shabu shabu. And I had an amazing sushi place just right across the street. And then also, like I said, right across the street, I had the Japanese-French bakery.
Jeez.
It was food heaven.
Yeah. A lot. I'd be so fat.
And I'm curious what you mean by Ramsey's debunked Wagyu. Because it's not really something that you can debunk. It is a ridiculously tender, flavorful cut of beef.
Did he just buy one in London and think it was Wagyu? Because that is a thing. Like, there are people who...
There's a lot of fake Wagyu, yeah.
Yeah, but it's Gordon Ramsay.
I mean, there's Wagyu you buy from a vending machine, you know. So
then there's also...
He has to know some stuff, right?
There's also the question of what grade of Wagyu it was. Because you guys know that there's different grades of Wagyu, right?
There's different grades of all types of.
Yep, and for Wagyu, it goes from A1 to A5. And as you go up in the grade, the price skyrockets. But, oh god, it's delicious. I've had Kobe before.
Oh, yeah?
I haven't had Hokkaido, and I want to say it's Honshu, Hokkaido, and Kobe are the three big ones. But I might be getting Honshu wrong. It might not be Honshu. It might be one of the other regions. But yeah, there's three main regions in Japan that go back and forth every year in which one gets the top slot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to go to Japan to try all their fancy food, you know.
Yeah. Japan's amazing when it comes to food. Oh, God.
Well, hopefully, ships are going to be freely sailing.
Well, I can't afford that.
Me neither.
I'm hoping that everything quiets back down and
Yeah.
trade and movement can start back up.
Shouldn't have stopped to begin with, but you know.
Yep. But people were making a choice that is never a good one of, yeah, let's surrender our freedom for safety.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like there's the old quote of, he who would sacrifice freedom for safety should have neither.
You do
What? Nobody ever said that.
I remember a chap that tied a key to a kite said that.
Oh, you mean the
Is that a
dude
myth?
that went to France and had a whole bunch of fun?
Ah,
Dr. Franco.
I think he had a stove named after himself as well, and
Here he had plates and dishes. He was a man of the times, as they say.
though one could argue that he was actually a man of an older age because he was more of a Renaissance man, I think it's sometimes referred to.
Well, at that end, then he's also a man of future ages because he still stands with us as we speak.
Yep.
Shit, wait. How do we go from cooking delicious foods to fucking Benjamin Franklin? What the fuck?
It happens here quite a
As
lot.
we mentioned the lockdowns and the
Oh,
sacrificing liberty for safety.
Yep.
and that indulges us with the liberty of tasty foods,
Ah,
or at least how to prep and cook foods, we should say.
That's on my channel, not this channel.
Yeah, there you go. Wait, are we cutting into our? And we'd like to.
Make you all
Show you-
ridiculously hungry. Yes.
Yes, with our advertisement, and here's where you need to draw your attention to. Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't get paid for this.
but yeah.
I wish we would. Shit.
And I would need to know what episode that you're referring to in order to watch the episode, Zach. Because I am not familiar with him going after Wagyu, and I do not know what episode of what show or what series.
I mean, I watched a
You
documentary
get
that said him Gordon like the In-N-Out burgers because he went back twice, so that's probably praise from him.
Well, I mean, if it's like a specific cultured group of cattle, I mean, look, I'm pretty sure that there's a group of llamas growing out in the Peruvian fucking mountains that are unlike any other llamas,
Mm-hmm.
only because of where they are. So who's to say that this, form of cow in these areas of Japan isn't like, yeah, this is unique, and this is the only that for some reason these cows produce this type of cuts of beef. It's aliens, okay? It's fucking aliens. This is
I need to
Holy
introduce
shit.
you to this show called SCP. There's this one episode called
is
The Charlie
SCP?
Burger, where there's this alien cow that's born that just keeps growing growths off itself. So the farmer just decides to cut off the growths, and he starts selling it to people as like the most perfect cuts of beef. Would you like a Charlie Burger?
We have gotten to that point.
Yes, we have.
Oh,
Sorry.
and I just looked up the episode that he said
Okay.
to look up for it.
No. Oh no.
and I actually remember this episode. To say that Gordon discredited Wagyu is not exactly accurate with it.
It was a guy who cooked it, huh?
It was a guy who claimed to be cooking Wagyu.
It
Was
pirated
not.
Wagyu.
And it was cooked poorly.
Oh.
So, saying that, yeah, this isn't Wagyu, this isn't good, and just saying that it's Wagyu is not enough. What the main issue was the guy who owned the restaurant, if I remember correctly, claimed that it wasn't Wagyu. In fact, he claimed that it was Kobe, because Kobe beef in the United States has no restriction on that name.
Oh.
Wagyu is slightly more controlled than Kobe, but it's still not entirely controlled. But yeah, the chef was not cooking Kobe. He was not cooking Wagyu. He was cooking effectively just ground beef while calling it Kobe or Wagyu. And it was frozen beef at that.
Wait, it was
Ooh, yeah,
ground,
yeah,
wait,
no.
ground beef?
Yeah, ground beef.
So it was already that's processed.
Yes, he was cooking a standard ground beef burger while calling it Kobe and charging for a Kobe or Wagyu pricing.
Good God, this dude is one step away from fucking pink goo. Here we
Yeah,
go.
so he was effectively cooking a, let's be
Burger
generous and say $6 burger. He was charging, instead of the $6 that it should have been, something like 40.
Jeez.
There's your 5 guys. Wow.
Yeah, he probably didn't even add anything to it. Like, you know, because Wagyu is supposed to have like a high content of fat. Like, that's what makes it.
Wagyu has,
Like,
Wagyu is ridiculously marbled, so it doesn't necessarily have a higher overall fat content. It's that the fat within Wagyu is more distributed.
yeah.
So here, let me just pull up a picture of Hokkaido Wagyu.
So while other cuts of meat, it's, you know, every bite you get that taste. With the ragu, it's every chew you get
And
the taste.
I was wrong. It wasn't Honshu. It is Miyazaki is the other sort of Wagyu that keeps on going back and forth with Hokkaido and Kobe. So everyone has, of course, seen a New York strip steak, right? You know what it looks like if I say New York strip. You have that pictured in your mind.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it looks like New York. Okay.
I'm going to pull up a Hokkaido New York strip steak, and I'll show you guys what that steak looks like.
Ooh.
Because it is something that you look at, and it is obviously different.
Hey, can I just interject? And I love how we jumped into this with talking about food, and we've gone this far in. Good God. I'm ready for a fucking Flintstone rib just to knock over a car.
Yeah, it is making me hungry talking about Wagyu, especially. God damn it, why are all of these pictures ridiculously tiny? I'm not looking for pictures for ants.
That's what she said.
Ooh.
I'm looking for an actual goddamn properly sized picture here, people.
Take your time.
Stop giving me goddamn thumbnails.
It's okay. I'm watching a video of a puppy being chased by a bunch of ducks, who then turns around and starts chasing the ducks. It's cute.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, let me do it this way.
Moving on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I might end up having to go for I'll go for ribeye. Everyone knows what a ribeye looks like. Ribeye still works. And because all the other ones are absolutely tiny, I'm going to go for this one. This will work to show. No, I don't want your coupon ad. Just let me show the picture of the beef. So everyone knows what a ribeye steak looks like.
Mm-hmm.
This,
Well, yeah, but what was that coupon?
it was 15% off.
Oh, of what?
Oh, there we go.
15% off this meat. So
For real?
that, yes, that is a Hokkaido ribeye.
And then how much is
And oh, the Hokkaido ribeye in that picture. Let me quickly double check here. I'll just show everyone. So, one steak of Hokkaido ribeye at the
Good
quarter-inch thickness. Or, sorry, that was half-inch thickness. At the half-inch thickness is $153.
This is
you want to
one?
sponsor a video, Adam?
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, holy shoot.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean when I'm like trying to picture this guy trying to mimic this with ground beef. Because like the only way he'd be able to do that is to add more fat to it.
Well, he was trying to say that it was a ground Wagyu.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or he was saying that it was ground Kobe. When
But it's just that the fat, because I guess the way it's raised too changes the flavor. So
yeah,
you could tell you could tell the organic egg from a farm-raised egg too. So
and like I said, the main thing that sets aside the Wagyu, or that is the general term, the Hokkaido, the Miyazaki, the Kobe, being the three main top producers of Wagyu, is that the fat, that intramuscular fat, that marbling in the steak, will start melting at body temperature. You touch the steak and it starts having that fat render down.
oh yeah.
It is absolutely insane. It's kind of like, have any of you ever had, what's the, Mengalitsa pork?
Nope.
Nope.
Sorry. Uncultured. Uncultured swine sitting right here.
Let me pull up an image of Mengalitsa pork. Because it is effectively the Wagyu of pork.
Mm.
It has this ridiculous fat in it that it tastes buttery.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I'm looking for Mengalitsa pork. What's a good image for the Mengalitsa pork? And it's a much redder pork than standard. So let's see, this one should be good. Hopefully this is a good sized image. That's Mengalitsa.
Oh.
So you see how it has a little bit more fat content?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, how would you cut a slice of that?
Mengalitsa pork, you can cook just like any other sort of pork. It has absolutely amazing fat content. The fat melts out, kind of tastes buttery. It's delicious and just really strong porky flavor with that really interesting fat. And yes, he was claiming that it was pure, if I remember correctly, he was saying that it was pure Kobe. He might have been saying Wagyu, but I think it was saying that it was pure Kobe. It was not pure Kobe, and it was obviously not Kobe. It was just a ground chuck that he was trying to sell as if it was Kobe.
I would
It
have to
was
taste Kobe to know what I mean, dupe first, in a burger.
Say again?
But I want to know if I'm eating Kobe in a burger form, so they ground it up.
Well, it's the texture.
Yeah,
And
I want to know. So, well, it'd be slightly different, huh?
It would be different than standard beef.
Okay.
The problem is that when you're talking about trying to tell the difference between different Kobes, so
Yeah.
trying to tell the difference between the Miyazaki, the Hokkaido, and the Kobe, for instance. The description that I've heard people that have had all three give is it's like trying to explain the difference between different brands of bottled water,
Oh, yeah.
where you can taste the difference between them. But can you meaningfully describe the flavor difference in a way that someone else who hasn't had them before would be able to then get a bottle of, let's say, Fiji and know for a fact that they're drinking Fiji?
Nope.
Yeah. And that's where the problem kind of comes in, that it's a very subtle difference between them. But there is a difference between the different Wagyus. It's just one that you have to kind of experience in order to be able to really get, oh, this is what the difference between this one and that one is. Which is why the next time that I have a massive increase in my pay or anything like that, I'm going to splurge and I'm going to get some Hokkaido Wagyu because I want to see what the difference between Hokkaido Wagyu is and Kobe Wagyu, because I've already had Kobe. So I want to see the Hokkaido and see which one I prefer. And then at a later point, I also want to try the Miyazaki.
Not gonna lie though, that cut of pork did make me think that they must make prosciutto out of that stuff, like really high end prosciutto, because prosciutto is supposed to be high end anyway. Like it's kind of encouraged to have decent fat. So yeah, sorry, I worked at a deli. I was picturing that stuff, and then my mouth was watering a little bit because good prosciutto in good Italian cooking. Yeah. I was watching a lot of Cabanera videos too.
But yeah, Zach, if you're still around, a lot of people do try to sell Kobe beef, especially when it isn't Kobe beef, because like I said, that is not a branded term in the United States. So people can claim to be selling Kobe beef without it being Kobe beef. Wagyu is a little bit more controlled than Kobe is as a term. So there's more restrictions on people selling something as Wagyu that isn't actually Wagyu. But the way that it tends to be kind of an end around is if beef comes from a ranch that does produce Wagyu, even if it's not one of the Wagyu stock, there's certain bits of slippery language that you can use in order to say that, yes, you're selling Wagyu when you aren't actually selling Wagyu. So it is a somewhat buyer beware. You have to make sure that you're getting it from a reliable, reputable source.
Yep.
And certain ones are more difficult to get than others. Kobe tends to be fairly difficult to get stateside, for instance. And when you do get Kobe, the one that I showed, the Hokkaido, is the cheapest of the three. So that $153 for a 12 to 16 ounce steak is cheaper than what you would get for the Miyazaki and the Kobe. Both of those would be a good bit more expensive than that $153 for a 12 to 16 ounce stick. But we have kind of talked this into the ground, I think.
Yeah.
Shall we go on to a different topic? Anyone have anything that they're dying to talk about? I know Adam mentioned a little bit ago the Afghan issue.
Can I say something funny about that?
Go ahead.
Dank has a problem with people on Twitter who are confused with his change in his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to now think that he's Al-Qaeda or something. I don't know. It's just
Well, I mean, he was a Nazi at first.
right.
Yeah, the one that I feel really sorry for is there's a woman that I saw leaving a comment on his account that she was so close because she said, "You're a free speech warrior? Really, you're just a joke. Oh, you're so close, you just identified what the joke was wrong. It's not he's the joke, it's that he's taking the piss out of this. He isn't actually for this shit. He's making fun of the people that caused this shit, though."
Like, yeah, I found that amazing. I'm still kind of in awe having found that out. Because, I mean, I got what he was doing right away. I was like, oh, okay. He's being Dank.
Oh, come on.
He's cracking the shits.
If at this point, when you see a lot of these people who espouse this type of idea of, I don't want to say PC culture because it's kind of a dated term, but that's what it is. Essentially, just, fucking driven to 11. And right now we're seeing them attack themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think they know
we
they
warned
fucked
you.
up.
We told you.
That's the problem. I think they know they fucked up. And it's not so much that they fucked up with Biden. It's like they could have voted for anybody else at this point, and they probably would have been at least coherent. And I think they realized that they fucked up because with Biden, like at this point, he's I don't know what's going on with him because they're like, oh, it's all his handlers and stuff, and yeah, I don't doubt that, but like he just says whatever.
And it's his hand. That is not something that you should be saying in defense of a man. You shouldn't be going, well, it's not his fault. It's that his turd wranglers weren't wrangling. Wait, really? That's your defense there?
Well, hold on. Let's just say that it wasn't. I didn't say that. It was this Canadian over here who said that. So
Sorry, but like I know it's not not everything that's involved in there is necessarily him, but it's just every time he opens his mouth. And here's the thing, that's all the left complained about for the last 5 years was every time Trump opens his mouth, he's being a retard. I'm like, oh, you know what? It's kind of fun being on the other side watching your guy open his mouth and spout a bunch of stupid shit and be a complete retard now, isn't it?
well, I mean,
I mean, at least our guy kept them at bay.
I just hope
Sorry.
things don't get too crazy over the weekend. And
I hope
the
so
next
too.
week.
I do hope so too, because there's a lot of people that like genuinely are afraid, and I feel for you guys.
Well, I think if I recall, I saw like a tweet about Australia saying if you hear about somebody going out to protest over the weekend, you should report them. And it's like, wait, there's going to be protests this weekend?
Oh, there's protests all over the place. Like Australia is a little bit crazy right now too. Like, I mean, they've been trying to protest their lockdowns because they're insane.
Well, in one state of Australia, to be fair.
Yeah.
They have states too, so.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they got regions and stuff.
Mm.
But from the outside looking in, like it looks like overblown. But I mean, I can't really say for much because my country's the same. Like, not all of Canada is like Ontario or Quebec.
Yeah.
Not everywhere is like the Maritimes. We all have some issues. All I got to say that's kind of funny is every time Trudeau stops somewhere, and he really has to bring in his crowds, but he keeps getting heckled by people. And I'm grateful to see people come out and actually speak their minds.
So
Oh,
he
shit.
busts everybody in.
I even saw him he was saying that, eventually, if you don't go along with the vaccine passports, there'll be consequences. And it's like, holy shit, dude.
Mhm.
Like, what do you, like, honestly, like, what do these people think that the reaction is going to be with this rhetoric? Like, is it, like,
Well,
I understand that a lot of people are.
he's going to
Or-
conflict himself right away because he's been cheering for the natives up here. And here's the thing. I don't have the numbers that you guys do, but I don't doubt it's the same up here as it is down where you guys are, in the sense that the minorities aren't necessarily getting the shots. A lot of
Oh.
minorities are religious people.
Yep. And real quick to touch on something about the Afghanistan bullshit going on that I needed to quickly double check before I said it because I did not want to misspeak on this. Did you guys hear that the government has been making fairly loud and prominent announcements that repatriation flights aren't free?
Mm.
Oh, yeah,
So-
it's like $2,000.
Yeah, it's for people trying to get back to the United States that have not been able to get out of Afghanistan yet. They will be held financially accountable for $2,000 to get them back in the United States. And if they fail to pay the government back for that $2,000 to get back into the United States,
What, they jump
they
back
will
off?
most likely not be able to renew their passports, thus cutting off their ability to travel anywhere outside of the United States.
Well, that's nice that your government is. Yeah, that's shitty.
Yeah, they pull out, leaving Americans behind. There are also currently ongoing arguments over who should be given priority in being brought to America. And there's a concerted effort to make it so that the top priority are not the American citizens that are currently in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Which, the fuck? They're our citizens.
Yeah.
There are citizens that are trapped there because we pulled out more sloppily than the average drunk high school kid during his first night of sex. And they got trapped there for that. Not only are we then going, oh yeah, in order for you to get out of that country and come back to the United States, you have to pay $2,000 or else fuck you. Because that's a great how do you do by your government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, they're then trying to make it so that you won't even be the top of the list when it comes to who gets to be on the flight first. I'm sorry, the way that it should go is that American citizens, top priority. Don't make them pay to get out of the fucking country that you abandoned them in. Get them back. Second priority are the translators that agreed to work with us, and as part of the agreement to work for us, we promised that if shit went sideways, we would get them out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me interject. I would say let's keep in line with the order of women and children first. So these motherfucking translators, hey, good job. But guess what? Your women and children are gonna go first, and then you're gonna fucking go.
Oh, I would say that, yeah,
Like,
you can have it
How,
where
how
their
in the
families...
fuck are we gonna sit there and look at
I
them?
would be
and go,
perfectly fine, Adam, if you said that you'd get their families out and then you'd get them out. That I'm perfectly fine with.
Mhm.
The thing that I have a problem with is that there are people saying that, no, we shouldn't get them out. The fuck we shouldn't. Because if we don't get the people that we had arrangements with, that we worked with, they were working with us, they were doing things for us with the agreement that, yep, as long as you do this job and you do it well and you're honest about it, we will make sure that you're taken care of should shit go sideways. If we don't live through on that side of the arrangement, then no one will ever work with us ever again. Because everyone would then look at, well, I remember the last time America said that it would help people if they helped America. And I remember those people getting decapitated.
And that's just it. That's what's going to happen. They're all going to be slaughtered if you don't. And bad faith is bad faith. Like, yeah, if I'm not going to get help from you, I'm not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not if it puts my family on the line. No, not even.
If we don't back up people that helped us, then people won't help us. It's one of those things that everyone should have learned in goddamn kindergarten at the latest.
Hey. In all fairness, we still have people who go on witness protection and then mysteriously get shot. So,
Yeah.
we're not 100% on this.
Oh, it's not that we have to be 100%, Adam, because there's no way that we will ever be 100%.
Oh no, never.
But
that's
we
what I'm
have
like.
to at least make the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing if you make the effort and you do a decent job more times than not, people will still come forward and they'll go, yeah, if you agree to get me out of here, if you agree to help me, I'll help you. That maintains the good faith on both sides, and shit gets done. We have people that are willing to help. That's how you end up with the mob snitches that came forward, the mob informants that came forward, and let us know what the fuck was going on, because they went, okay, yeah, it isn't 100%. I know there's a chance that I might die if I inform on the family, but there's also a chance that I'll die if I don't inform on the family. And
Well, I will say in this instance, it's kind of different because it wasn't so much that they were like, yeah, thanks for your testimony and your appearance in court, and you be on your way. It was more of a, yeah, thanks for your help. We're gone. You're off to your own device. And, these guys are like, wait, I thought you said, because they're going to come for us because we were the ones that were helping you.
you gave us your word that if shit went sideways, you would make sure that we got out as well.
But we're not seeing that. And that's the,
That's the thing that pisses me off, because we need to demonstrate that even when shit does go sideways, a promise by the United States is gold.
not right now. It's kind of tarnished with.
Oh, no, right now it's aspiring to one day be pyrite.
I'd say the only thing positive about this is that it's really let the world know that if they really want to protect themselves, they really should start looking out for themselves. They really should. And we should have been anyway.
Yes
Yeah.
and no, because there's certain areas that the opponents that they have are great enough in number and great enough in size that if this becomes the new normal for the United States, that, oh yes, thanks for your help. Oh, you need help right now? Sorry. if that becomes the new normal, there's nations that are going to die in the process that should not die, that should be protected. Like, we already have goddamn China gearing up for potential incursions against Taiwan.
Yeah, it's good to hear Japan was doing stuff
Yeah.
kind of challenge them on it, just because Japan at least has some honor. They are showing some honor here, you know, something that I feel a lot of people have forgotten about.
Yeah.
Integrity.
It's good that the Japanese are slowly starting to kind of reevaluate their hardcore pacifist position that they've had since the war. But it's still something that I would much rather a world where the US holds to its promises, and when we say we will protect you, we actually give a good damn solid try at protecting you. I don't want it to be that we have allies that have helped us and we go, sucks to suck.
Yeah.
Well, I stand by what I said last time too. I just hope that we don't end up being your hidden plague, because we are, as far as I know, bringing in refugees. And yet again, like, everyone's aware of watching out for the southern border, but you guys do need to make sure that you pay attention to us too, because, you know, we do try to keep track of that stuff, but those guys hate everybody.
Yep. And ideally, what would happen to my mind is we
They
would
watch us, no Mexicans, you know.
get the Americans out
Yeah.
so that we don't leave any of them behind, and we get them out, not charging them $2,000 for trying to abandon them. They get first priority. Second priority, interpreters and their immediate families. The tertiary is, we do want to help people that are in a shit situation that we've just suddenly dumped them in.
Yes, of course.
We already have interpreters that, in this order of events, the one that I'm laying out, we will have already just brought out with their families. They knew people from the country. They're probably the least likely to select someone that will want to kill them. So what we should do is, every interpreter that we brought out, name one family. You want to save additional people? Name one family, or name two families. However many people. Figure that out before you do it. And then each of them names that number of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then those people are the ones that we go to. And we go, you can get out while the getting's good. We got you. And if they decide to stay, they decide to stay. That is no longer on us. That is their decision. If they decide to come, welcome. And it would be something that would limit the chance of issue. We would still, of course, look into the people that got named, make sure that they are entirely above board, make sure that they are people that are good people before we brought them. But yeah, go for that process of, we're getting our interpreters out, we're getting our interpreters' families out because they put their life on the line to help us. And then we're getting out a decent number of innocent people caught in the cross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm not opposed to helping people. It's just I want to know who the people are coming across. And I want to know that they are actually people fleeing. Because a lot of these people coming over, yet again, middle-aged to,
Yep.
soldier-age men, and I'm like, no, I'm not
And-
stupid.
Also, in that scenario, what I would do is I would make it be known to the people that we go to, the interpreters that we're going to, saying, name a family. I would make it known that, by the way, when you name a family, you're vouching for that family. If we bring them over and they start causing problems, that makes us have to reevaluate our stance on you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way, they'll be even more likely to pick people that they're going, this family was really good to my family. It's an upstanding family. Get them out.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be inclined to make sure that that family is of the highest moral character that they can.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be reevaluated and have it be okay, the 5 people that you named to bring over, 4 of them just committed a terrorist attack. Yeah, you're going back. I don't want to deal with that. So put them in a position where we've followed through on our side, and then some, so that no one will be able to look at us and go, well, why should we help the United States? The United States just abandons the people that help them. No, we don't. And we're also in a position where we aren't having to worry about, well, what if we bring in the wrong people?
Mm-hmm.
That would be my ideal scenario. And it would go in that order. It would be Americans, interpreters, and family. Either family first, then interpreters, or bring over interpreters and family just in one mass, if possible. Going from the interpreters that were in the most danger to the interpreters that were in the least danger, if we do the interpreter and family at the same time. And then go for the additional named people.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, done.
And your soldiers, for the love of fuck. Don't abandon your Americans.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's one of those things that I've always respected was the quote of not leaving no man behind if you can help it. Because it really means a lot to them and to their families and their friends. It really does.
The fact that there's the government saying, well, repatriation flights, they're on you. And the fact that the government is also currently trying to decide, okay, what group should be first priority in getting out of country? Should it be the Americans? And there are people going, no, it shouldn't be the Americans. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course it should be the Americans. You're the American government. That means you're the government for Americans. Get the Americans back, you crazy cunts.
Like, it's already in the mindset of everybody that this whole thing was pointless, that it was a waste of time, it was a waste of resources, it was a waste of life. So the idea that you're going to leave the Americans behind doesn't change that feeling. Sorry. Kind of makes it worse.
Mm-hmm. There was a right way of stepping down shit. There was a right way of transitioning over. We fucked it up.
Yeah.
And we've been able to do it successfully in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We've also fucked it up several times in the past. And for some goddamn reason, we decided to look at the fuck-ups and model it after that rather than after the successes.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we transferred power back over to Germany, after having Allied occupied Germany for a fair while after the war, Germany did well.
Yeah, but we still have a military base in Germany, though, still, too. You just said you live high and dry.
We have military bases in a shit ton of countries around the world.
Yeah. So
I mean, we have military bases in Japan. We have military bases in
yeah.
South Korea. We have military. Name a country that is in the first world or in the developing world, almost going to first, and we have military bases.
Mhm.
That's
I mean,
part of our entire strategy about how to maintain national safety. Because if we have people everywhere, then if there's a threat to the United States, our troops are right there already.
I feel
We
like
can
you're
send
being
more,
I feel like
we
you're
have
being
them
a
right
little unfair to Germany here, Sanguine, because if you're comparing the Middle East to a Germany, like I know Germany was crazy for a bit there, but they're way more rational than like.
Well,
you know,
they felt guilty about the Holocaust and all that too. So
Yep. But I'm saying that it was a
Oh, yeah.
country that we had
oh yeah,
yeah.
gone in and we had damn near destroyed its economic potential. We had damn near destroyed its infrastructure. We had damn near
Mhm.
destroyed everything that was needed, either us or the Axis powers themselves, because Germany destroyed a shit ton of its infrastructure and its withdrawals. And just trying to slow down the Ally progress.
Mhm.
But we had bombing runs that just trashed entire sectors of the German economy.
yeah.
And we had a successful way of building back up Germany. We had a successful way of building back up Japan. We've done successful build backs. This one was not one of the successful ones.
Yeah.
No. And I mean,
And
yeah, I don't blame you guys for pulling out, and that's the thing that everyone has to like keep repeating all the time, because for some reason that's not obvious.
It would take us at least another 20 years before anything positive changed
well,
was even seen.
the problem is that we
Mhm.
tried to force a change too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the thing, when you look at Germany and when you look at Japan, we didn't just suddenly, okay, you guys are going to run in your country exactly like this. No, we went, okay, we're going to tweak how the country's running. And we're going to steer it in this direction. It's not going to be a sudden, you're going to function this way. It's going to be okay, nudge you this way.
Yeah.
Nudge you a little bit more. Work with the culture. Work to bring out the positive aspects that we wanted. Just bumping them here and there to keep them on the straight line. And we could have done that with Afghanistan. We could have been encouraging the more moderate parties, and rather than suddenly trying to mandate a complete overhaul, like we mandated that a certain percent of their government had to be female.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was a lot of the people that were trying to flee was the female mayor.
Yep.
That they put in play, and yeah, she's like, yeah, my head's now on a block. So
Yeah, we mandated that a certain percent of the government had to be female, and a large number, or not, a larger number than should be. Let me phrase it that way, because that is a far more accurate way of phrasing it. A larger number than it should have ever been. The female representatives for an area had no connection to the area,
Yeah. I
had
think
never
it's been-
lived in the area, for instance,
Jeez.
because
So, like,
they had to stick someone, and they needed a certain percent that was female, so
real American politics, huh?
mm-hmm. Yet again, you can't force diversity because that doesn't work. Like somebody has to be qualified for what they're qualified for. That's
Yep.
not
Right.
saying she can't do her job. That more means that you should have had somebody qualified be in charge and then have her act as his assistant.
Or even that, to function in a democracy, you can't have that.
No.
Right. What you could have done is you could have encouraged
Mm-hmm.
certain professions to let more women into them.
Mm-hmm.
Secretarial. That was a fairly standard start of women in the workplace.
Exactly.
Secretaries. And taking a insanely conservative nation where women shall not work at all and going, okay, we're going to encourage the more moderate elements in the society. And hey, I know that women working is not part of the culture, but you could probably have a woman take notes for you.
You know, like,
You could probably have them be bank tellers.
and here's the thing, the men don't, and I know this sounds sexist, but the men don't lose that feeling of, I'm not in control. They're giving up some of what they do, but they haven't given up that control. So that's one step. I know that's not a lot for these feminists who don't understand that these people are still living in the past. That's not to say that they don't have their own forms of education or wisdom or something. I don't know. But they're still living in the past. So you got to take little steps with people. And the more little steps you take, yeah, secretary's perfect, because yet again, it's a role where they're still taking orders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they're not necessarily in charge, but they're also learning at the same time. They're still in a position where they can see what the guy is doing. And a really, really crafty woman learns how to be really good with that.
And
Because,
if you get to a point where you go from a country where women aren't allowed to work full stop, so most of them don't get educated, because why the fuck would you educate someone who is not allowed to work? To a country where women do a shit ton of clerical jobs, from secretaries to bank tellers and clerks and shit like that. Well, if you have a secretary, bare minimum, she needs to know how to read and write. So,
isn't it India where most women have degrees, but once they get married, they stop working? So there's like a you know.
Oh yeah, that was fairly common in most of the Western world at a time as well, where women would get degrees, they would work for a while because it was kind of this, hey, you know where it's easy to meet people? At a job.
Yeah.
It always comes back to how the culture is. And when you think about India, you don't necessarily think of like childcare. And that's a thing. Like India still has a culture of big families. They tend to have big families. So if you have to pay for each kid to go to a healthcare expert or someone to watch your kids for you, that racks up really quickly. So sometimes for them it's economical to stay home. That's just all it is to it. And it's still the same in North America. Like there's some places where like here, if you don't make a decent wage, what you make is your is your daycare. You're paying for your daycare.
And what you do is you just kind of nudge a population along, and that's how you make actually long-term beneficial changes to society. Because if you come in and you go, this is how it's going to be from now on, you have a lot of people that suddenly turn around and go, you know what? Fuck you.
Well,
how about you fuck off?
And the other nice thing about a secretarial job is it doesn't necessarily need to be long hours. It doesn't necessarily need to be every day. So that doesn't mean she has to ignore her family. So yet again, it's not so much of a cultural shock where she's being taken from the family. Because that's the other problem too, is a lot of these women still run the household. Like they might be treated like shit, but they're still expected to run the household. They're still expected to make sure that, you know, food and clothing and cleanliness is still a thing. So...
And just like the idea of becoming a pot washer when you're trying to get into the food industry, in order to get your foot in the door and start learning the trade, getting that foot in the door of, women are secretaries. They start being seen around the workplace. And as you see them around the workplace, you occasionally go, hey, are you able to do this as well?
Accounting.
Yeah.
And another
Accounting being a good example, which is why I said,
Mhm.
like, secretary, accounting, clerk, clerical, shit, all that.
Mhm.
They kind of tie in because if you're teaching them how to read and write, might as well teach them math as well. And you start kind of expanding out from there. People start taking on additional responsibilities. As people take on additional responsibilities, everyone else kind of looks over and goes, hey, you know, she's actually doing a really good job. And they continue on.
Mm-hmm.
You just nudge the culture. Don't suddenly come in and this percent of your government has to be women. Because that's going to cause a lot of people to get pissed off.
Yeah. Like they don't understand what it is that what they're trying to do, and that's the problem. Like there's still a disconnect of like, okay, now I feel like you're violating my culture in my country.
Yep.
You know, and they are more national than the US is. That is a fact. As far as anybody looking in, they are more national than the US. So all these people who are like, oh, the US sucks, they don't feel that way about their country. I hate to break it to you.
Well, perhaps
Some people in there probably do. Some people living there probably do. But, you know.
I would say the number of people that would say that openly is fewer.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the number of people that believe that are fewer, or the percent of people that believe that are fewer, but the percent that would say it openly, I would absolutely agree, are probably fewer. And like I said, it's this thing that you can nudge a population along, and that's where change tends to actually stick. Just like with people, if you're able to slowly nudge a person into changing, they're more likely to actually change and maintain that change than if you take let's say a fat person trying to lose weight.
Yep, I thought it was going to go there.
If you take a fat person trying to lose weight that is used to eating 4,000 calories a day, and you suddenly go, okay, you're going to eat 1,600. What's the chance that they're actually going to be successful? I'd wager virtually nil.
Well, if they can't change to, you know, have to worry about it.
If you take that 5,000 calorie or that 4,000 calorie a day person and you go, hey, bump that down to 3,600, how likely are they to be able to bump down to 46 or to 3,600? Probably fairly likely. Once they hit 3,600 and they're maintaining 3,600, hey, 3,200. How likely are they to be able to do that? Still probably fairly likely. Then you start decreasing the amount that you drop at each time because you want it to be effectively a certain percent of what they're currently doing as a change. And you don't want that percent to get too high. So once they're down to 3,200, how about 29? And you can slowly bump them down. And as they get used to those slow adds, those slow bits of change, they just kind of develop their new normal. And then when they get to their new normal, you shift it just slightly and they get to that new normal. And the chance of that person maintaining a healthy diet afterwards, fairly fucking high. It's the sudden diets that tend to be a massive issue. If you try to get someone who never exercises and you say, okay, you're going to go for a 3-mile run every day, probably their response will be, fuck you, no. If you instead go, hey, want to walk down to the corner store with me? they'll probably go, I have nothing better. And if you do that continuously, they'll get used to walking to the corner store. And then instead of just going to the corner store, hey, you want to walk to this? Walk there. Stretch out the walk a bit further every so often. And suddenly that person who almost never exercised is now going on daily walks.
See, you're figuring the biggest thing here. They have to want to do all that stuff first.
The thing that I'm saying is that if it's a small enough change, the chance of them being willing to do any of it goes up massively. The chance that someone who's never exercised wants to go for a 3-mile run, virtually nil. The chance that someone who never exercises is willing to walk down to the corner store with you, grab a couple drinks, and then walk back, probably fairly decent.
Yeah, but first you have to want to even do the change. To even... Because we just went in there without even asking them, so...
Yeah, but I'm saying that even if they aren't the person that originates the idea of the change.
Yeah.
If the change is gradual enough, and by the way, we can hear the clang of the spoon rather loud. If the change is gradual enough, you can encourage them along without them really at any point going, I want to change.
Yeah.
Because that's been done countless times throughout history. The number of times that it's been everyone that says, we demand a change, virtually nil.
Yeah.
Because if everyone demanded a change, it would have already fucking happened.
Mm-hmm. That's just the fact of the matter. And it's yeah.
If a fat person wanted to eat 1,600 calories a day, just suddenly, and they had an intense desire to eat 1,600 calories a day, yeah, it'd be a lot easier to convince them to eat 1,600 calories a day because they would already be going, yeah, I'm going to eat 1,600 calories a day. Let me plan out how I can eat just 1,600 calories a day.
That usually doesn't happen without medical reasons. Sorry.
Yep. Which is why I'm saying that if you're able to convince them to, instead of going for the 1,600 from 4,000 in one go, to over the course of a year, every couple weeks, reduce their calories.
Yeah, that's why they really try to encourage people who are obese to start with like pop. Like, because pop is the first one you can really kind of get away with just by changing to Diet Coke or diet whatever version of it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's not good for you either. But to somebody who's taking in 4,000 calories, just that amount of sugar reduction is a lot.
Yeah, and what you typically do is if someone comes in and they're drinking a 2 liter of soda a day, what you'd typically do is, first transition from, okay, how about instead of standard, go over to, I don't know, whatever the diet version of that drink is. And then after they come back and they go, okay, so now I'm drinking a 2 liter of diet soda a day. Have you tried fizzy water? There's some flavored fizzy waters that are rather nice. See if you can swap out half of that soda for fizzy water.
Yeah.
To come back, hey, so now I'm drinking a liter of diet soda and a liter of fizzy water a day. How about just all fizzy water? And you just step them along the path.
Yep.
Gradual change is change that is actually able to be maintained.
The other thing with change is also the fact that the The part that makes it the slowest is the part where people have to face reality. And if we're going with the fat person analogy, well, the problem with the reality with a fat person is when they really have to pay attention to writing down what they eat and how much of it is, and then actually compare it to what a person that their height, should be the weight they should be, is actually eating. Even somebody on like a high diet, somebody who's really active on a high diet, when they actually face that reality, it's kind of both heartbreaking and challenging. But you have to actually make that leap first before you can actually go through with everything. And you're not talking about people who are on a diet. You're talking about religion and culture. That's also political.
Yeah, and because it's not just one person, the gradual change becomes even easier. Because there's a range of people, and there are going to be people that are going, yeah, this is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
This is what I've always wanted to have happen.
Yep.
There's going to be some people going, it's okay. There's going to be some people going, I guess. And then you're going to have people going, fuck this, I hate it all. But the fuck this, I hate it all people are going to be relatively few in number. And as it continues further along, the social pressures to not be the fuck this, I hate it, start adding on, so you get even fewer of the fuck this, I hate it people. Whereas if you do a drastic change, you maximize the number of fuck this, I hate it, fuck you, I hate everything. Just like if you suddenly drop that morbidly obese person's calories from 4,000 to 1,600, they're going to be looking at you like, I can probably eat you. Are you sure you want to cut down my food? I'm not above cannibalism.
It is a thing, but yeah, I've had to do a lot of this stuff with myself, like especially the exercise, because that's the one I've changed the most this year. Like last year was the diet. This year was following through and actually getting the exercise, because I'm a lazy ass. It's so easy to sit in front of a computer and just find myself entertained most of the day, find myself in a group of people, easily interact with people, and never really leave my chair.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, I find myself having to make excuses to get up and sit behind my chair and just do one steps. Do that for 10 minutes and then do squats for another 10 and then do, and then, I have to remind myself to do that frequently throughout the day, just because, I could do it for half an hour a day and then I'm sitting on my ass for the rest of the day. So, yeah, well, I'm not really helping myself.
Shit, even just starting something like that. Oh, Adam, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't do too many squats because there's some out there in the Twitterverse who do not like thicky pudding type of ladies. So.
Okay. Well, no, you got to understand that I have this problem with my thighs, so it's not just squats; it's just different types of squats. Because I'm trying to get my, I'm trying to narrow in on my inner thigh. Because, yeah.
Hey, it's all good in the neighborhood.
Well, it's all good in the neighborhood.
Saying nothing.
No, it's just, it's not too bad. It's just, like I said, I haven't been this active before in probably since I was a teen, so that was probably the hardest thing, because it does hurt. It does actually hurt. But I have to keep going at it because I'm getting stronger as I go. And that's the thing a lot of people who are obese have to remember too, is like, even if today you only got 5 minutes of exercise, yesterday you got nothing. So today would have been still better than yesterday. And if tomorrow you only do 5 and say the third day, you know what, you maybe think you can do 7. Well, oh my God, you're doing 7 more than you did the last 2 days. And that's kind of how it works. And,
even just getting into a habit of, okay, before I take a shower, I'll do 5 push-ups. And then before long, those 5 push-ups, let's say you're really bad at them. So you start with 5 from the knee push-ups, or you're even worse. You're doing just 5 wall pushes. Are you guys familiar with what wall pushes are?
Yep.
So you're starting out with 5 wall pushes. Before your shower, every day, you do 5 wall pushes. And then suddenly that 5 goes to 10 because you get to a point where you're doing your 5 wall pushes and you were really out of shape to begin with, so it was difficult getting 5, and then you get to 5 that day and you're going, man, I don't feel like I've done any yet. So you do 5 more. And then a little bit later, you do 15, and a little bit later, you do 20, and then you go, let me try knee push-ups. So you do push-ups where you're kneeling down and doing push-ups, and you get 5 of those, and then suddenly build up, and you're doing 20 of those, and then you're doing 5 actual push-ups, and slowly build up, and you're doing 20 actual push-ups. Then you start just expanding from there. That's how you get the momentum going. You do something small, and that small change becomes something that is able to be maintained.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of determination and discipline, actually.
And if you're doing a small enough change, it isn't even that much of either of those. Like this happens when you're talking about people that are trying to get financially on their feet again because they got in a fair bit of debt. Are you guys familiar with the 2 main approaches to getting rid of your debt? There's the roll up and I'm trying to remember the colloquial term for the other. One's the roll up, and then the other one's the knock down, I think, is the other name. So in the roll up, you look at all the debt that you have. So let's say you have 5 credit cards. And you look at which of those credit cards do you owe the least to? So let's say 1, you owe $100. The next, you owe $200. The next, 3, 4, 5, just to make it real simple. So you look at those and you go, okay, I'm going to pay enough on 4 of these to hold them steady so that I'm not owing more to them. I'm just making sure that I don't owe more. I'm not paying them off. I'm just preventing them from getting more expensive.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to, this 100, I owe the least on, I'm going to pay off the 100. So you successfully pay off the 100. And next time you're looking at them and you have a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. So you hold the 3, 4, and 5 so that they don't increase. And you just start really concentrating on paying off the 200. And you get to the point where you've paid off the 200. So the next time you look at it, and you have a 3, you have a 4, and you have a 5, and you just keep on knocking them down. You're rolling up your debt, is the way that it's referred, by going from the one that you have the least due to the one that you have the most due. And each time that you tick one of those off, you get a feeling of accomplishment because you're less in debt now than you were before. And you're obviously less in debt now than you were before because you used to be in debt to 5 different card companies.
Yeah.
And now you're in debt to 4. 4's less than 5. That's obvious success. Hell yeah. So that's the roll-up strategy. And it's playing into that little steps that have an obvious effect. Then the knockdown is another strategy, which is rather than looking at the amount that you owe to any specific card you look at the interest rate for the cards, and you start with the highest interest rate. And you knock that one's debt out first. Then you go to the next highest interest rate, and you knock that one down. So it's the knockdown, because each time that you finish out that card, the next one has a lower interest rate. So it's knockdown versus the first one was roll up. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, it's just that simple thing of don't try to tackle the problem all at once, because if you go into that situation going, okay, I need to pay off all 5 of these cards by next month, you aren't going to. And you're going to be stressed out. You're not going to actually make any headway because you don't have a plan of attack, and you're most likely going to end up panicking and fucking it up in the panic. So instead, go in with a plan that's gradual change over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that's why they call these things a journey. They tend to call them a journey because it is a step-by-step thing, and you have to face a lot of challenges, and some things are really hard, and not everybody understands every struggle because it's different for everybody, especially because everybody's circumstances is different.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an extremely different circumstances. Like, these people are treating these people like they're absolutely American, and it's just, they really aren't. And they don't want to be. That's the thing. They don't necessarily want to be. Like, even if you did improve their lifestyle, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to want to be like Americans. And I'm not saying that is shade to America, because America is great, and you guys are great. But I like that the world is different for being different.
And I think that over time, certain characteristics that are currently associated with the West will become common throughout the world.
Yes. Because they kind of have been doing that.
Yeah, because there's certain things that have obvious benefits. And they don't have real massive negatives. So, yeah, people will go towards them. It's attractive having a country that, yeah, you're able to practice your religion freely, for instance. That's an attractive factor for most people.
It is. It really is, yeah.
Yeah, and it's only people that are in the absolute majority that will ever try to argue against that. And even some of them will be going, it might actually be nice if people are just able to worship what they want. Fuck it.
Well, and this might be a hot take, but there might be some contention, at least as far as I can see.
That's what
Well, in terms of, like, in areas in Michigan, I want to say, where there's a high concentration of refugees of the Muslim faith, where they have call to prayer announced via loudspeaker. Now, as somebody as a different faith, I would protest that. I would say, I'm paying taxes to live in this city. I don't care to hear, this different religious call to prayer. I don't care what their belief is. That's not.
But Adam, Adam, they have to listen to your religious music too.
Well,
So
I would say at an equal pace. You can say there are some Catholic churches that have bells ringing at certain times.
I was just about to mention, you have certain denominations that have the church bells chime.
But at that end, it's like, Yeah, but that's like it's 6 o'clock and it chimes 6 bells. As long as it's not, starting to play some church music, it's like that's just a clock at that point.
Well, we're talking about different things. You have the bells that are chiming out different times. Those tend not to be the religious affiliated bells. The religious ones tend to be it chimes at the start of, or a few moments before the start of a service.
Yeah, that's where it's
And
like, come on.
then they ring the parishioners out at the end as well.
And at that, I would say, yeah, knock that off too. Fucking shit. I don't know. If I move into a town, I don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah, but
And
Adam, you're always gonna have noise of some type in a town, and if you move into a city, it's even worse because then you have traffic, and then you have the trains, and they honk. They do.
Oh no! Come on,
And-
get out of here with that. That's like
Oh, yeah.
sitting there like, oh, you
Oh
move
yeah,
into a
city
city
noise
and all of a sudden
pollution
you
is a
hear
thing. City
you
noise
hear
pollution is a
the
thing.
baker sitting out there like, I got 3 loaves of bread here over here. And it's like, no, that's not
Sometimes
the
you
same
do,
thing.
sometimes you don't, but yeah, you get noise everywhere. Like
Yeah.
No, knock it off.
I live.
You got the
I
country,
live.
you get cows,
I live a block away from our national park, so coyotes never shut the fuck up.
See,
Yeah.
I could understand.
Hold on. Wait. You're a Canadian. Get the fuck out of here. You're not. This is different shit.
Yeah,
We
but you're
don't- we
talking
don't-
about like small town, like you don't have
No.
coyotes.
We're talking. This is America, okay? We don't.
You got coyotes in fucking America. Don't
Yeah,
get me-
we'll accept coyote howls above fucking any sort of religious call to doctrine.
I don't know
That's
that
what
you've
we're
heard
talking.
those things, Mr. Adam, because they are loud. They are
It's in the
kind of
Constitution,
piercing,
ma'am.
and they like
This
to let you
sounds-
know. They like to let you know, hey, we caught a rabbit. Oh, we might have caught your neighbor's dog. Oh, there's a
Or
dead
cat.
deer, or a cat, or a cat. Oh,
See,
too loud.
I'm of a mind that if it's not being done by government, if it's being done by government, fuck that shit. Knock that shit off.
Mhm.
But if it's not being done by the government and it isn't violating, for example, a local noise ordinance.
Yes, yeah.
So if there's certain communities that, for instance, have the no loud music between this hour and this hour type
Mhm,
deal.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
And if that shit's going off during the no loud music, then sorry, you're violating the local noise ordinance. But-
Then you have the issue of them saying that they're protected because of religious immunity, and then they can.
To a certain degree, though, they have to still abide by the laws, though. You know, it's like you could still celebrate your bells, but if your bells are so loud that they can hear them like 8 blocks away,
We're not talking about bells. This,
Well-
and this is why it's even being brought up. Like there are cities and towns in the northern midwestern areas that are having this, and a lot of them they didn't even have a chance to say if they wanted it or not, and
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying. That's this is where I'm saying that there has to be a
and sometimes a Muslim community will build a mosque right next to a farm that raises pigs, and then decide that they get to just get the pig farmer to move, and the pig farmer's like, no, fuck yourself.
Yeah, that shit, fuck that. But like I said, for me, if it's a private institution,
Yeah.
So the local church, the local mosque, the local synagogue, whatever the fuck institution, the local Asatran church. That's the Norse pantheon for anyone who doesn't know. If they have their chimes that go off at specific times, or their announcements that go off at specific times, as long as they aren't violating a local sound ordinance, I'm perfectly fine. that is just them doing what they're doing. Now, if it's something that a private citizen would get in trouble for doing, then yeah, they should also not be allowed to do it, because I don't think that an organization should get a right that the private citizen doesn't.
Well, hold on. I mean, can I don't want to. I don't want to because I really don't want to dwell on this. I mean, personally, and I know you're giggling. I don't know why, but like,
I think she's just giggly.
There's a difference between hearing bells at times of like hourly change, and then actual like somebody reciting prayers over a loudspeaker. There's a difference. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's when an influx of a community comes in, and then all of a sudden,
I'm going to teach you.
Stop. Let me finish. Okay, and then you can continue with your Canuckistani beliefs on your end. Okay, but here in America, we have a choice as to whether or not we want to be proselytized over the loudspeaker. I would not want Amish people coming over into my town and just spouting their nonsense, just as I wouldn't want Mormons
to come. I agree with you, Mr. Adam. I don't disagree that sometimes you get a religious kook who's just kind of an asshole, doesn't understand that their message is not being heard because they're actually being an asshole. My response to that was going to be, well, it's like dealing with people who are fucking too loud. You got to pick something really, really juicy to play back really loud in response. So my brother had two picks: Sesame Street, the original version, or Barnyard Animals Fucking.
And with the additional information as to what exactly you were talking about, Adam, I found myself more in agreement with what you were saying. What it sounded like originally was that you were taking issue with effectively the church bell sort of situation, only the Islamic equivalent of church bell.
Yeah.
Whereas it sounds more like you're taking issue with their actual prayers are being broadcast on loudspeaker rather than just a signal to pray being broadcast on loudspeaker.
Call to prayer, yeah. That's what it is.
Well, yeah, but there's different sorts of call to prayer. There's a call to prayer where it actually then continues into the prayer, and then there's the chime or music, like 5-second musical clip that plays, that is a signal that, oh yes, it is time to pray.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And even if it was, a bunch of Christians over loudspeaker sitting there like,
I'd still think that was
listen to me,
annoying.
Lord. I'd be like,
I'd still think that
shut
was
the fuck
annoying.
up. I don't want to hear that either.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. Like that's why I said pick whatever you think is the best, juiciest thing to play back.
Yeah. That's the thing. You don't hear that. But that, because you can't have there's no equal. Like if there was the mega church that was going out there and sitting there and pulling that shit, I'd be running alongside.
I think you're too young for old amps, Mr. Adam.
Did you say too young?
Yes, for old amps.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I'm saying it. I'm calling it. Old amps to the window.
Oh my goodness.
Adam's like 60, so.
Like I said, I originally was thinking that you were taking issue with certain mosques will have like the music that they play for like 10 seconds to announce that, yep, this is prayer time, and then it cuts off and it's just music. It isn't.
No, there's a lot of areas in
the actual prayer
in the northern Midwestern areas that especially during the early 2000s, we had a bunch of refugees move into the area, and it didn't really
I feel like being really evil and suggesting if you do manage to find something to play for them, play something in Hindi.
Wait, what?
She's
they're
still
both-
stuck on the counter noise answer. But yeah, I get what you're saying now, that you don't take kindly to the broadcast of the prayers on just megaphone going
Yeah,
through it.
because I wouldn't want to hear it on any religious
Yeah,
doctrine.
and
And I
that
have my
I-
own faith, but at the same
Oh.
end, it's like, come on, this.
Like I
keep
said,
it to
that
yourself.
I am more in agreement with than what I originally thought was the contention.
Yeah,
because-
no, and it just I used a specific terminology only because it paints a more dynamic image for it. You know, when you hear a Muslim call to prayer, you know what
Mhm,
you
mhm,
know that
mhm,
it's
mhm.
they're broadcasting a prayer over the
Well,
loudspeaker. So it's
Yeah,
Like
they used to have videos of that in London. I remember.
Like I said,
well, England. There's a lot of that going on in England too, and that's what I mean. Like I wouldn't want, but again, I wouldn't want that with somebody going out there and like, let me tell you about the Lord Jesus Christ. Like, look, I believe in Jesus Christ, but keep that shit to yourself. I don't want to hear it.
I
like
don't,
I said,
I
Your
don't,
shit.
it's again a difference of the degree, because like I said, if it was the equivalent of bells, which I'm including
Oh, I like the bells because
just
it told me the time.
I'm including just the musical bit, because not every mosque broadcasts the full prayer.
Mhm.
Some of them just kind of broadcast a short audio clip that, like I said, is like 5 to 10 seconds. They might play it twice, and then that's just the prayer time, and then everyone else is supposed to do their prayers if they're a follower of the religion. And then there's the other ones that will do the downtown Kabul of it is just being broadcast on megaphones the entire goddamn prayer, rather than just the kind of almost alarm of prayer time.
Yeah,
And
alarm clock to prayer is
Mhm.
one thing, but actually saying the prayer, it's like, come on, dude. Like,
yeah,
I don't follow your
And-
religion. I want to hear this shit.
yeah, that I understand more. There are certain exceptions to that, like there's the people have probably seen the park preachers and
Yeah,
shit like that. And if that's happening, as long as it's in one of the areas where it's, you're allowed to do this shit here, then I don't have a problem if it's an imam setup corner here and the
freedom of
Southern
speech. Still freedom of
Baptist setup
speech.
corner there,
Mhm.
and they're now dueling in their preaching. That is perfectly fine as long as no one ends up trying to attack either.
So
But
dueling preachers, so.
yeah, if
Yeah.
it's that type of shit, I don't have a problem. If it is the massive mosque that is piping out a prayer, I would have as much problem with that as I do a massive church piping out prayer. And I would agree with you that that's a bit much.
Yeah, anywhere. Even like if I went out and I got a home and all of a sudden like a mega church opens up and then, every Sunday they're sitting there like playing pipe organs and shit. I'd be
Every
pissed off, too.
Sunday,
I'd be like,
if
look,
every
dude,
Sunday you're woken up with, and he said,
yeah, I'd be just as equally pissed. It's because again, it's not so much I don't like your religion. I don't like you believing in whatever faith you want to believe in. It's I don't want to hear your shit.
Mhm.
Fucking turn it down. Like holy fuck.
do what those churches do and have it be where they'll have the chimes or their music, and then they have a radio channel on AM radio that they broadcast their sermons on, or they have a television channel that you can tune into, and it's a local television channel, where they broadcast their sermons, and that way the people that want to actually take part, want to listen, are able to go to that venue or go, oh, is that this mosque's call to prayer interlude? Okay, let me flip to channel 4 and get out my prayer rug.
Shit, dude. First, sounds like a drive-in theater, you know?
Well,
You just
that's
hook
what
up your radio.
that's effectively what a number of them damn near do. There's a number of churches that will get together and they'll kind of chip in so that they reserve time slots on local television channels
Well, hell,
for their service to be
the-
broadcast on the television.
the old AM and FM radio stations
Yep.
shouldn't be too expensive to be able to pick up nowadays.
Yep,
Especially since
and they
everybody
do
has
that
a
as well.
satellite.
So,
But the other thing too was, shit. The only exception I would have towards this, honestly, is this: if if the religious building and these call to prayers or whatever,
mhm.
if they haven't been built past 1950. Anything past 1950, we've entered a new age. After World War II, whether you like it or not, we've entered a different age. So if it was built before then, fine. Because again, you'll only find that shit in like small little towns where they're already been established, and that's going for both, Islam and Christianity. Because there's a lot of mosques in Spain still.
Mhm.
So I would say that, and then everything past that, come on, dude. You're just now at this point, you're just interfering in other people's fucking. We just want to fucking wake up on a Sunday and eat Cheerios and watch cartoons. We don't want to have to hear shit,
See,
Yep.
I would still say that I would make it so that it's more a style restriction. You have to have a really goddamn pretty building in order to be able to qualify. You can't have a modern building and then have church bells. No. If you're going to do church bells, you need to have it look proper old. It
But
can
they
be a
gotta-
new construction, but it has to look proper old.
Or they got to do it like the Amish, where they like purchase a bunch of land, and they have like a barrier of land before like you don't see border Amish towns. You got to cut through land before you start seeing Amish people. So if you really want to have this religious sect, and again, this goes for all of them, because I'm pretty sure the Mormons are even licking them lips about this type of thing. Hey, fine, but you gain a collective, go off in your own, and fucking do that shit. Leave everybody else alone. Shit.
See, the Amish just don't want to have to deal with any of the English unless they're on Rumspringa.
Hell no. They're happy and content with building farms and churning butter and hanging out with Weird Al Yankovic.
But it is that time.
Mhm.
Shall we go around the horn?
Ah,
Who
Sure.
wants to go first?
You know me. Have fun, because what's the point of living and having fun?
Let's continue on to Jen.
Well, I was gonna say in hindsight, Mr. Adam, don't go with my initial plan on using the Hindi music, because that might get you shanked. Seriously shanked by either group, honestly. But everybody else have a good night, and thanks for having me on Sanguine. I always enjoy these chats, and I always talk about food with you, and it's fun.
Yep. Adam?
well, yeah, I agree with Jen. Not about the Hindi music. I have to work that one out still, but it was fun chatting with you guys. I always enjoy talking with both you and Cookie over there, and of course Sanguine. And thank you again, Sanguine, for letting me on. But yeah, I want to say God bless you all, and I love you all. Take care.
Mhm. Sounds good. And it sounds like you're wrestling with a clamshell bit of packaging there, Useless.
Yeah, sorry. I'm getting kind of hungry.
So I'll leave off with my standard. If you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And with that, have a good night, all. The zoo is closed.
Have fun.